Hi, my name's Andre Beckford, and I'll be talking about the scientific applications to the game of endball. So, what is endball? Endball is simply a simple invasion sport. Uses a similar pitch that you would in rugby or football. It can be adapted to use for basketball, but anyway, what are the physical demands of a game of endball? With the similar numbers and the similar pitches, I thought a good comparison to be made would be women's rugby sevens. So using our GPS and heart rate, we can clearly see that there is a comparison to be made between women's rugby sevens and students playing handball. Coleman suggests something to be brought into consideration is Coleman suggests that on average, there is a 10 to 12% performance gap between elite males, elite females. So this could suggest why the heart rate is lower in males. In M-ball, it could suggest that the players aren't working as hard. Um, how, However, let's just so this is the speed comparisons between the game of M-ball. This is a standard distribution, meaning the higher the graph, the more common it is. So as you can see, there's a lot of X's here around the 6, showing that this is the max velocity of most of the students is 6. That's the most common one. If you look over to this graph now on the left, you see that the highest intensity for women's rugby sevens is around the same comparisons, around 5 to around 6. Yeah. So another way you can compare them is by introducing lactate data. Lactate thresholds are a good predictor of pace, what needs to be maintained without overexerting them. To give the results I'm about to show you more context, the UK average, as suggested by the NHS, for resting is around 0.5 to 2.2 millimoles per litre. And if it raises above 20, you're overexerting, meaning that there's not enough oxygen getting to the muscles and not enough blood getting to the muscles in order to complete the activities. This can result in cramps. This can result in injuries. This can result in muscle based injuries, so tears. Yeah. So so when we looked at the GPS data, um, a comparison that could have been made was medium distance running, because the amount of distance on average that we covered was around 800 to 900 meters. So I felt like a good comparison was medium distance running, which is 800 to 1200. As you can see, there's a steady incline of the lactate data. This is because you don't really need to add context to running or performances like performance-based sports, just because it's just completing one action. And as you can see, that's why it's so steady. When compared to something like game of endball, an invasion sport, you can clearly see that there is context that needs to be added. Um, like as you can see in participant 2, they start the match um, with being high, close to overexerting themselves. They quickly decline, and then it raises to the same levels, and then it quickly declines again. This could suggest that maybe they did an activity beforehand that was exerting on the body. Maybe they could have been to the gym, or they could have been doing another activity, because for it to drop so low within a short period of time shows that it is abnormal. This is abnormal for it to be so high. A good result from all these results, a good result to sort of highlight is the participant 5, where he starts within the resting threshold, and then it steadily increases. However, in game 3, um, he was subbed out. He wasn't playing the last game, so it returned back to resting. So you've got a steady sort of incline similar to the medium distance running. And the conclusions that could be drawn from GPS and lactate data is the physical demands are very comparable to rugby sevens at amateur level in terms of being an invasion sport. A comparison, but not a great one, would be the performance sport medium distance running. Medium distance running, um, it doesn't performance sports don't require much context as like invasion sports or ball paced sports, where some points you might be walking, some points you might be stationary, some points you might be sprinting, and it changes heavily based on positions. Um, Performance sport, it doesn't really change. You're sort of doing the same actions. You're starting your sprints at the same sort of distance. But I thought it was an interesting comparison. One second. Increasing the so now I want to talk about increasing passing skills through interventions in the game of endball. Interventions are limiters or rules that force participants to meet certain demands or play certain ways in order to improve. These can be implemented by the coaches. Um, you can implement them on individual players in order to limit them in order to improve, or you can implement them on the whole team in order to meet certain objectives. And mine are to improve passing skills. We did this by video analysis. So we used to remain biased, to remain unbiased and sort of fair. We used video analysis in order to do coding. This is what it would look like. So for each pass made, we said what team, um, what netball zone, like what part of the court, what pressure, the length of the pass, what side, like we just and then finally how successful it was. And these are some of the conclusions, some of the analysis that could be drawn up due to results. So some of the conclusions is 100% of the unsuccessful passes were across court. This is because they don't shift the defense enough to relieve pressure from the capture. Um, a lot of these passes were ones that were sort of just like dumped off that weren't really thought about. Um, High to medium pressure caused all turnovers, and 57%, so over just over half of all turnovers, all unsuccessful passes, were coming from high pressure turnovers. So being under pressure from the ball caused a lot of turnovers. So it weren't due to lack of passing ability. It was more due to quick sort of good play by the defenders. Another thing that could be said is long passes over three thirds of the court don't promote movement. This is because a lot of them had the catcher or the thrower being stationary or walking, and we want to see, as we can see, the physical demands are closer to rugby sevens, and therefore we want it to be as close as it can to rugby sevens in terms of physical demands, and walking and stationary doesn't really meet them demands. So my interventions had three goals: to promote forward passing, to dismay the long passes over the top, and then to keep a consistent pressure. The reason I want to promote long forward passing is these were more successful across the across court passes were 100% unsuccessful. Dismay long passes. We want to keep the physical demands. We want to keep we want to get our participants improving using the game of endball, and then can keep a consistent pressure. We want to get them used to having pressure on the ball, as this caused the most turnovers, and medium to high pressure was the cause of all turnovers. So what I decided to implement is called rolling 3v3v3. Um, this is 1 second. So if I use this pitch as an example, we would have three people, 1, 2, 3, going. We have three people in the middle, going this way, and then you'd have three going against three. Sorry, 2, 3. We have three people here, and three people defending this side. So the red team would go this way and attack against this team. Whether if they score, they're going against the purple team now, and if they score again, they're going against the orange team. If at any point they cause a turnover, then the orange team. So if they're going against, so the red team's going against the orange team, and then the orange team, they turn it over. They're then going against the purple team, and then so it's just a consistent play. Let's turn this off. Yeah, 1 second. So the reason we did this is used in a lot of invasion sports to teach offensive transition to keep a consistent pressure. I felt like it would give enough rest and it will work as interval training, and therefore we can keep that consistent high level of pressure. Um, Long passes are no longer able to be completed due to the fact that there's always another team defending. Normally, long passes would happen because a player would wait behind, but because every player's got to move up and got to move back down the other side of the court, this meant that long passes were sort of negated. And these are some of the results of the interventions. We saw a 75 decrease in unsuccessful passes, so people were a lot more smart. They were a lot smarter with the ball. We generally saw better movement. We saw that we saw 61% of passes, either the passer or the catcher was jogging or sprinting, compared to 22% before. We saw 55% of passes were passed forward, compared to the 20% before, where the interventions before the interventions, where they were passing across side to side more and weren't really moving up the court, putting pressure on the defense. We also saw a decrease in the effectiveness of high pressure. We saw that the players started to adapt to being under constant high pressure, and it didn't affect passes because we still had a decrease in unsuccessful passes. Something to note, I just wanted to put this out there. Something to note is the time of day was different, so that could affect results. The day was different. This could affect results because a lot of students tend to have different activities on different days. They tend to do different sports on different days. This could affect results, but overall, it did show that implementation of interventions was successful. Here's some of the references for the comparing performance athletes and with the GPS speed zones, and this is just the game interventions with with the interventions. This is like the coding that we use there. But yeah, thanks for listening.